So we should be live in a second. Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
So Dave has one more story he wants to talk about.
Yeah, my colleagues and I in Denmark, we're working with what's called true storytelling. And we've had enough of the fake news and the fake promises by CEOs and companies and the greenwashing. So we wanted to say, well, can we use self-correcting processes like we were working on with the socio-economic approach? Can we do something called true storytelling? So we start out with an ethical understanding of truth. You know, what's true for you in this situation? What are you trying to do? What are you committed to? What are your values? You know, and is that going to sustain you over the long run? Then we say, okay, let's make room for the existing stories. It's sort of like looking at the before, doing that historical bit in socioeconomics. We say, okay, before we restory, as Grace Ann and I call it, before we restory everything, let's make room for the stuff that's already there. Don't you just hate it when consultants come in and or a new executive and say, okay, I've got the answers and we're going to do a new marketing program. They don't even consult the marketing staff. You know, they do a new information system and they don't even consult their own people. So we want to make room for what's already there. Third, we want to come up with a strategy. So we plot different strategies, and so those are the bets on the future and onto-narrative, and we're making different bets of different risk, and we say, okay, maybe this one's a little bit harder to get to, and this would be a little easier, but it's a better option for us in the long run, so we're going to make it happen. Yeah. So they commit to that plot, and they try to make it something memorable. And so we're talking about a high involvement process with everybody, you know, not just plopping it on to people.
So you pick a bet that is quite hard to achieve, and then if people, how do people start believing in that bet versus, you know, taking the lower bet?
Well, business as usual has a strong momentum, so that tends to be the lower bet. We're going to do what we've always done, and we're stuck with it. And Grace Ann and I do the process of how do you get unstuck from the past to become open to a new story and to a bet that's got a little bit more risk to it. It's not the most risky, but it's a little bit of a big jump stretch that you want to make. It's a stretch, right, Grace Ann? You want to make a stretch. And so we try to help them through that process of not just selecting any strategy, but one that stretches them to where they think they need to go and they want to go, you know, and they have commitment. And that's what we're trying to help them do. The fourth thing has to do with timing, okay? And that gets at that we're between all these different kinds of times. But one of the time is called having the timing to know when it's the right thing to do, or waiting until the timing is right. It's called kairos, you know, in Greece. And so kairos, we do the timing of things. So we're very conscious about, okay, now we've got a direction, but what's the timing? And 5, we want to help the story along. So in restoring process, this is why I wanted you to sit here. So you could say something about the restoring that we've done for 20 years now, where in restoring, you want that new story is like a little baby, a little infant puppy, and you want to train it right and bring it along and coach and nurture it, right? Can you say anything about that?
Well, in addition to identifying your own strengths and potential strengths that might have been apparent at some point in the history, you project into the future the kind of character that you want to create. And so you take those elements that were in the past, were overlooked, and you never capitalized on them, but they had those glimmers of possibility.
Right.
you could create a different future with those things. And so the basic philosophy of it is the solution's always been there.
Yeah.
Just haven't been able to focus on it and exploit the advantages. And then the other part of that is once you identify those unique qualities or overlooked characteristics, you enlist your social network to support that new self, that new storyline.
So
and you
how does the process of restoring look like in real life? Yeah? Do you go in the organization? Do people talk to each other? How do you set that up? How does it look for outsiders?
We use the storytelling conversations.
Well, you talk to each other. Once you've identified that past that you want to bring forward, that lost identity, that lost story, you enlist people you can use, part of it is sometimes letter writing, conversations, discussions, but writing it down is a very helpful thing. And then people can focus on what it is, and then to make a specific plan about how each relative for an individual or each segment of your environment and as a corporation is what they're going to do and how they're going to do it to that new story and to make it the dominant story rather than the lost story.
Now, this is a process that Jens, Jens, Larson, and Lena Brun, Brun, and myself, we've got a book coming out of Routledge Press on the true storytelling. And then the process is helping stories along, nurturing them along. And so you want to ground it in the spaces and places. You want to ground it in the different times and the different technologies. So you spend a lot of time networking it together. What we introduced before is the between process. Number 6, we've got to do staging. We want to carry that between a little further and say, okay, what are the brochures going to look like? How can we costume this new story? How can we release it and launch it in a way that's good marketing? And so it niches in somewhat. Every time we get a new executive at a university, they want to launch a new strategy. They bring in their consulting team. They haven't involved us in what's already there. And the staging kind of breaks down. There's one big meeting, a lot of fanfare, a lot of funny brochures, and then everybody goes like, now what? I don't get this. So staging is like real important. And Jens Larson worked with one of the municipalities in Denmark, and they want to have their approaches to sustainable development goals of the United Nations. They have a water tower that they painted in different colors to represent some of those goals, and it makes sense to them and their community. And so they juxtapose a picture of that water tower from their municipality in Denmark right in front of the United Nations. You got the UN building in that. Well, that's their symbol that to the UN. We're going to go there and present our wonderful idea for our Denmark municipality on bringing these UN goals into fruition. And the final thing is number 7, is to reflect. To reflect on the whole process. In socio-economic school, you learn to do evaluation of each project. So this is your evaluation, your metrics, your assessments, how are things going. So we've introduced you to finding the truth. They commit to making room for it. Number 2, 3, plotting a strategy. 4, the timing. 5, how do you help it along in a restoring sense? 6, how do you stage it to launch it? And 7, how do you do reflexivity? And then you run a loop that all together. My colleagues in Denmark are one of the Lena Brun. She was a director of the Rock Museum outside of Copenhagen, and she founded this museum that was very different because it was an experience of all the people that make the rock music.
Rock music, not rocks.
Yeah, rock music. Yeah, rock. When I say rock, I mean rock and roll, of course.
Okay.
You know. It's all about context.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks. Anyway, she left that after developing a very successful new format for a museum to work with the true storytelling and to help startups. And then what Jens specializes is working with the UN goals and municipalities and companies that want to implement those goals. So I just wanted to mention the true storytelling, and you can find out more about it at truestorytelling.org. And you can see the model if you want some graphics. There's good.
Yeah, we'll put it down the video as well.
Yeah, and then what we're seeing is a process of self-correcting that's in true storytelling, a process of self-correcting longitudinal commitment that's in the socio-economic approach. And I think it's also in the restoring approach, you know, at least the way that we try to work with it.
And sort of underlying all of that is the whole idea of reflexivity, looking back at your own process.
Yeah, number 7 on true storytelling. And the science of this, I think storytelling can make a turn to become a science, not an abstract science, but longitudinal projects that have high involvement, a lot of commitment, and transform organizations, really, not just we're going to transform the organization, we're going to change it. No, actually working with it. What they used to call participative action research, you know, long-term commitments. So yeah, that's what we want to do. The new book we got is how to do conversational storytelling for your dissertation and use this self-correcting storytelling science. If anyone wants it, then go to davidboje.com and you can download it for free. Yep. Until it's published, and then you're gonna have to pay like hundreds of dollars.
Okay. That's a good tip, yeah. For anyone working on a dissertation, I guess, yeah. I think we'll stop here.
Okay.
I have one final question, basically, to both of you. If what type of advice would you give, you know, a young manager in an organization? What is the one advice that you would want to give that person?
Sam?
I would say listen to people. I was at a big banquet where a manager that was a friend of my uncle's got an award, and I was sitting at a table with some of the people, and I said, what makes him different? And that was one of the things they said. And if you look to my video on horse sense at work, what I learned from working with the horses, people have said they learned how to understand body language and how to communicate better because they could interpret body language and nonverbals. And what my horse told me was, you know, I said the lesson is that we can learn to communicate with horses. And horse people sometimes say, horses are people too. Like your pets are part of your family. They're people too. Well, people are people too. And we get that when we put ourselves in these boxes of organizations, and we forget that. And so that's the main thing. People are people too. So listen and you will hear what you need to know.
I think I would give the advice that to the manager that you have a story, that you have a story that's your living story. And maybe you haven't thought about it, but maybe you could start to reflect, to have a notebook to actually interview yourself. And what's your story and what kind of future am I creating with that story? And what's the past that I'm coming out of? Where am I stuck? And what new bets do I want to make on the future? And those stories have many sides to them. If there's one mistake a manager makes, it's to hear a complaint from a customer or from another employee about somebody, and then that manager calls the person on the carpet and chews them out and says, well, that wasn't even what I was trying to do. You know, so you have to listen to the other sides of the story and do very, very careful investigations. and get all sides of the story so that you don't make dumb decisions, you know?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I think, when David was saying that, I was thinking it's something that happened we did one of these online interviews about research, and there was a question about what happens when everything's screwed up and it goes wrong and it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what you said?
What did I say? Oh, that's an opportunity for revelation, for reflection on inspiration, because something isn't the way you expected it to be. So maybe that's your new, what we call
hooray.
Your new proposition.
That's
what
he said. Hooray.
Hooray.
Wow, something happened, and it's unexpected. This is a real opportunity here. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's how you look at it,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you very much for this interview. Yeah.
All the success in the world to you and your broadcast. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a start. We'll see how it goes. So we'll put all the different links below the video, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe, please like the video, and we'll move on, and other video will come soon. Thank you.
Okay.